So here's something to think about. I don't particularly have a point to make here, but in the spirit of self-awareness, I think I'm going to talk about this for a second. And that's the issue of how much time do each of us spend on our quote-unquote real life, our physical life, and how much time do we spend online? I know this is talked about a lot, but to actually quantify it and go, how much time are we actually spending in a, I don't know if we can call it a virtual world, whatever, online, looking at apps, anything. Now, younger people might take that as a slap and go, oh, some old guy talking about online. And they could say, what about the time you spend watching television? Does that count? That's not the same as going out, playing sports, taking a walk, even going shopping, talking to people. So what about the time people spend watching television? And then, of course, someone could say, well, does radio count? You know, I'll make excuses for radio a little bit because you can be listening to the radio and doing something else. But someone could raise that point with some validity. And then, of course, they could say, well, what about books? If you're reading a book or a newspaper or reading something, aren't you spending time in your head that way? So I guess the ultimate question is, how much time do we spend in our heads, our brains, and how much time do we actually spend, how can I say it, in our bodies, living a physical life, whatever. You understand what I'm saying, I hope. So I'm not particularly trying to make a point or preach or anything like that. I'm just in the spirit of self-awareness and honestly analyzing. And I'll mention there's an exercise that one can do that's very interesting called the 168 exercise. That's what I call it. Other people call it different things, I think. There are 168 hours in a week. Get 168 poker chips or any kind of anything and look at the different categories of your life, you know, which you can include sleeping and eating and whatever your categories of your life are, and just take those chips and put them on each category. And of course, it might be different from a Monday to a Saturday if you're a working person. But at any rate, look at the time you spend at work, look at the time you spend sleeping, look at the time you spend in a car each week, look at the time, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just a way to to really clearly see, what am I doing with my time? Because that's ultimately what we have. We get 168 hours a week. What are we doing with them? And that's not passing judgment on what we do with them. Some people may go, I like watching TV. I like reading a book. I like doing this. It's fine. But in the spirit of self-awareness, out of 168 hours, what are each of us doing with those 168 hours? Okay, thought for the day.